Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, retold by Bhaskar, Yogacharya. In the previous episode, we learned how Sri Krishna explains Arjuna about the self, the seer, the prana, the Atma. Now we shall begin with the similar topic of Sankhya Yoga Adhyay 2. The self in the body, O Arjun, is eternal and indestructible. This is so in the case of the cells in all bodies. Therefore, it's not fit for you to feel grief for any being. Further, considering also your own duty, it does not befit you to waver. For to a Kshatriya, there is no greater good than a righteous war. Happy are the Kshatriyas, O Arjun, to whom a war like this comes of its own accord. It opens the gate to heaven. But if you do not fight this righteous war, you will be turning away from all your duty and honored position, and will be incurring sin. Further, people will speak ill of you for all time, and for one accustomed to be honored, dishonor is worse than death. The great warriors will think that you have fled from battle in fear. These men who held you in high esteem will speak lightly of you now. Your enemies, slandering your prowess, will use words which should never be uttered. What could be more painful than that? If slain, you shall win heaven, or if victorious, you shall enjoy the earth. Therefore, arise, O Arjun, resolved to fight. Holding pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat are alike. Gird yourself up for the battle. Thus, you shall not incur any sin. This buddhi concerning the self has been imparted to you. Now listen to this with regard to yoga, by following which you will get rid of the bondage of karma. Here, there is no loss of effort, nor any accrual of evil. Even a little of this dharma protects a man from the great fear. In this Karam Yoga, O Arjun, the resolute mind is one-pointed. The mind of the irresolute are many-branched and endless. O Parth, the unwise, who rejoice in the letter of the Vedas, say there is nothing else. They are full only of worldly desires, and they hanker for heaven. They speak flowery words which offer earth as the fruit of work. They look upon the Vedas as consisting entirely of varied rites for the attainment of pleasure and power. Those who cling so to pleasure or power are attracted by that speech offering heavenly rewards, and are unable to develop the resolute will of a concentrated mind. The Vedas have the three gunas for their sphere. O Arjun, you must be free from these three gunas and be free from the pairs of opposites. Abide in pure sattva. Never care to acquire things and to protect what has been acquired, but be established in the self. What use a thirsty person has for a water reservoirs when all sides of it are flooded? That much alone is the use of all the Vedas for a Brahmin who knows. To work alone you have to ride, and not to the fruits. Don't be impelled by the fruits of work, nor have attachment to inaction. Abandoning attachment and established in yoga, perform works, viewing success and failure with an even mind. Evenness of mind is said to be yoga. Action with attachment is far inferior, O Arjun, to action done with evenness of mind. Seek refuge in evenness of mind. Miserable are they who act with a motive for results. A man with evenness of mind discards here, and now good and evil, therefore endeavor for yoga. Yoga is skill in action. The wise who possess evenness of mind, relishing the fruits born of action, are freed from the bondage of birth and go to the region beyond all else. When your intellect has passed beyond the tangle of delusion, you will yourself feel disgusted regarding what you shall hear and what you have already heard. When your intellect, well enlightened by hearing from me and firmly placed, stands unshaken in the concentrated mind, then you will attain the vision of the self. Arjun said, "What is the mode of speech of him who is of firm wisdom, who is established in the control of the mind? What will a man of firm wisdom speaks? O Krishna, how does he sit? How does he move?" The Lord said, "When a man renounces all the desires of the mind, O Arjun, when he is satisfied in himself, with himself, and then he is said to be of firm wisdom. He whose mind is not perturbed in pain, who has no longings of pleasure, who is free from desire, fear, and anger, he is called a sage of firm wisdom. He who has no love on any side, who when he finds good or evil, neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is firmly set. When one is able to draw his senses from the objects of sense on every side, as a tortoise draws in its limbs, then his wisdom is firmly set. The objects of senses, accepting relish for the objects, turn away from the abstinent dweller in the body. Even the relish turns away from him when what is supreme over the senses, that is, the self, is seen. The turbulent senses, O Arjun, do carry away perforce the mind of even a wise man, though he is ever striving. Having controlled all the senses, let him remain in contemplation regarding me as supreme, for his knowledge is firmly set, whose senses are under control. To a man thinking about sense objects, there arises attachment to them. From attachment arises desire, from desire arises anger, and from anger there comes delusion. From delusion, the loss of memory. From the loss of memory, the destruction of discrimination. And with the destruction of discrimination, he is lost. But he who goes through the senses, sense objects with the senses free from love and hate, discipline and control, attains serenity. In that serenity, there is a loss of all sorrow. For in the case of a person with a serene mind, the buddhi soon becomes well established. There is no buddhi for the unintegrated, nor for him is there contemplation of the self. And for him, without contemplation of the self, there is no peace. And for one lacking peace, where is happiness? For when the mind follows the senses experiencing their objects, his understanding is carried away by them. And as the wind carries away a ship on the water, therefore, O mighty armed, he whose senses are restrained from going after their objects on all sides, his wisdom is firmly set. What is night for all beings? In it the controlled one is awake, when all beings are awake. That is the night to the sage who sees. He into whom all desires enter as the water enters the full and undisturbed sea, attains to peace, and not he who longs after objects of desire. The man who, abandoning all desires, abides without longing and possession, and the sense I and mine wins peace. This is the Brahmi state, O Arjun. None attaining to this is deluded. By abiding in this state, even at the hour of death, one wins the self, said the Lord. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Please share my work if you really like to listen to it, and stay tuned for other episode.